In this video, I'm building 3 massive LEGO zoos, including over 300 animals from giant peaceful mammals to resurrected dinosaurs. I'll be creating over 60 different enclosures, with each zoo getting more intense and dangerous as the video goes on. Let the building begin. I actually went to a real zoo to connect with the animals and get inspired to create my own LEGO zoo. We'll start by fencing in these 25 LEGO base plates so animals and guests can't escape. In the front, we'll tile off an area for the entrance and then place down the ticket stalls along with a couple arches. I'll add in the 2 minifigures inside to hand out tickets and then place a leafy roof on top. And of course, we need to make a sign to place above the entrance. Then we can complete the entry courtyard by adding in a couple benches, trash cans, and tiki torches. Guests can see the first animal at the zoo and then buy tickets to get inside. Behind the entrance, I want to make a big mural of a lion for guests to be greeted by, which actually looks really cool. We can start working on the first exhibit for gray wolves. Gray wolves are native to North America, Europe, and Asia, and are the cousins of our best friends. We can start by building an outline with bricks and then place down glass walls to enclose it. After laying down some grass and dirt, we can add in some water. Then I built this large wolf head with a cave in the back for the wolves to make their home in. And thanks to everyone who submitted animal suggestions for my zoo. Now we can release the 2 gray wolves into the exhibit. For the main attraction to this exhibit, I designed a crane which will allow park guests to actually pick up an entire deer and drop them inside for the wolves to enjoy a tasty snack. And with that, our first enclosure is complete. The next exhibit will be for smaller woodland creatures like the capybara, hare, raccoon, and hedgehog. I built a small grassy dugout for the hare to hide away in, and then filled in the rest of the area with grass and dirt. I also added in water and placed down a couple different types of plants. The raccoon and capybara can relax by the water, just like they enjoy doing out in the wild. I built this loop for the hedgehog for obvious reasons. With the first 2 exhibits complete, we still have over 100 animals left to build exhibits for. And next up in the middle, let's build one of my favorite parts of the zoo, the reptile house, which contains different species of snakes, lizards, frogs, spiders, and more. We'll grab a bunch of tan bricks and make a large outline for the building and tile off the floor inside. There are quite a few animals to make enclosures for, so I sectioned them off into 7 different areas. Starting with the biggest one, I'll build up a back wall full of rocks and vines. Then I added in a bunch of different plants and filled in the middle with blue studs for water. Now we can place in the different types of chameleons and frogs. The final result looks pretty accurate to what I saw at the zoo. We'll finish building the other 6 enclosures, which house a cobra, 2 scorpions in a desert climate, a boa constrictor, a black widow, a couple species of tarantulas native to California, and 2 water snakes found in North America. And make sure to subscribe and like the video, or you might end up swimming with the snakes. After adding in the glass walls, it really does look like the real thing. All that's left is to add a roof and place this giant snake on top to signify what's inside the double doors. With the middle of the zoo filled out, it's time to turn our attention to the back corner. I want to build a large savanna area for all the animals native to Africa. The zoo I visited had a huge open savanna for all the different animals like elephants, rhinos, ostriches, giraffes, and lions to roam around together. And I bought all of them plus more, which definitely wasn't cheap. We're going to need a bunch of tan plates to build a large space for all the different species. I'll use these hose pieces to create a secure barrier for the herd animals, and then I'll enclose a smaller section with glass for the lions, and place a large wall between the 2. With the 2 areas separated, I can get to work building a large watering hole for the herd animals. Watering holes are commonly found in the African savanna, and it's where groups of different species gather to drink water. Now we can fill in the hole with water and add some foliage around the edge. I'll also add in some dry brush throughout the exhibit. Then I built a large acacia tree, which is native to the savanna. Large predators typically use them to rest in the branches. With the area filled out, we can place down the animals, like a male and female elephant with their 2 calves. I made a couple mud puddles for the babies because the calves at the zoo were having an intense wrestling match in the mud. I'll add 2 giraffes, a zebra, and a couple ostriches. And for some reason, Bob thought it was a good idea to add leopards into the exhibit, and also for some reason, crocodiles. I also want to build a platform for guests to be able to feed lettuce to the giraffes. I was able to feed them at the zoo, which was a fun and up-close experience. With that large area complete, I'll move on to building a home for the lion family. And of course, I need to build the iconic pride rock for the lion to stand on, since he is the king of the jungle. I built a small watering hole, placed down a few dry shrubs, and made a smaller acacia tree for the mother lion to lay down under with her 2 cubs, which I was also lucky enough to see at the zoo. Before the African exhibit is complete, I need to add a rhino. This is the closest thing LEGO has made to a rhino and actually comes from a Super Mario set. And now the savanna is complete, and it turned out looking really cool. I'm gonna make a space for a petting zoo. I made a farm-style fence to enclose the area. I'll add in the different types of farm animals like a cow, sheep, pig, calf, bunny, lamb, and most importantly, goats. Because this viewer really wanted to see goats. So, goat in the logs, chunky unicorn goat, more goats, broken goat, goats, goat. We also can't forget to add another pig, but for Minecraft. I filled up the enclosure with a chicken hut, a large tree, a couple of logs for the goats to parkour off of, and a water trough. With the final addition of a camel, the petting zoo is open for guests. The next area to build is for aquatic mammals and ocean creatures. I'll start with building an area for a touch pool, which is one of the few places in a zoo where you can directly interact with the animals. This pool will contain a couple sea turtles, stingrays, an octopus, and also a tiger shark put in by Bob. What could go wrong? We'll fill in the touch pool with blue studs, and now it's complete. Let's move on to the polar bears, which are native to the Arctic Circle. I built an ice wall surrounding the enclosure, and I'll fill it in with water and some ice formations. Now the mother and baby polar bear have a home to hunt fish in, which we'll close in with the glass wall. Right next to the polar bear enclosure, we'll make one for the penguins, which are found in the southern half of the globe, and seals, which are found worldwide. I built up an ice float, rock structure, and even a slide for the penguins. I'll also place down the 2 seal pups, their mother, and a seagull in the corner. Now both of the enclosures are complete, and they look pretty similar to their actual native environments. Let's move on to the second largest area in the zoo, the aquarium. I'll use all of these blue tinted glass pieces with bricks at the base to create the walls of the tanks. I also left 2 open holes on either side to place a connecting tube for the animals to swim through. Let's add in tan plates at the bottom to replace the grass with sand. The next step requires an illegal building technique. I'll use these blue plates to create a coral reef with fish swimming around it. I'll place them in the back walls of the aquarium to give the illusion of being underwater, which surprisingly looks really good. I'll also add a few clams, crabs, and starfish on the aquarium floor, along with a few pieces of kelp. Now I can add an orca and a couple dolphins on one side, and then a great white shark, a hammerhead, and a saw shark on the other side. There's also a dolphin swimming through the tube. I built a few benches for guests to sit on to admire the beauty of these amazing Lego sea creatures. In this big open section here, let's build the first enclosures for animals found in North and South America. I'll use these brown pieces to create an outline of the 3 enclosures, and then place the glass for the animals that are a bit more dangerous. I built a river that will run through all the enclosures, connecting them together by water. With the internal walls placed, we can start with the mountain lion. I'll add some grass to create some small hills and place down a tree that I built for the mountain lion to stalk its prey from. In the middle section, I'm going to make a meadow area for the smaller animals full of different shrubs, logs, and twigs. Now we can add in a couple beavers who are busy at work constructing a dam. I'll also release a couple river otters, which are even more adorable in person. And finally, we'll add in a skunk hiding in the bushes to complete the enclosure. In the final area, I'll start by building a cave for the brown bear to hide in. Let's place a dying tree with a beehive hanging down, which is a perfect place for the bears to scratch their backs. I'll place a couple small pine trees down and then one large one that I built. With the tree placed down, there's a perfect spot for a bald eagle to perch. There's even a baby black bear in the enclosure, which finishes it off very nicely. I'm very happy with how these 3 exhibits turned out. Right behind the reptile house, I want to make an aviary and butterfly house. For the butterfly house, I placed down a bunch of different flowers and released butterflies all throughout. There's a stone path for guests to walk through and observe the butterflies in their naturalistic habitat. In the aviary, I also added a bunch of different foliage for the birds to nest and rest in. I decided that the sloths and koala could go in here since they're both slow moving and enjoy the trees as well. There are quite a few different bird species mingling together. Let me know if you're able to find them all. In this last big open area, I want to add exhibits for animals native to Asia. I'll make 5 separate enclosures for the last of the animals. We'll use these red bricks for the outline of the exhibits, which is a fitting color for the area. I'll enclose them with glass and wire fencing. The first exhibit will be for gorillas, which are technically from Africa, but they sit right in the middle of the African and Asian exhibits. I built a tree and some different shrubs to replicate the dense forest floor where gorillas like to hang out. And we can't forget to add in a pull-up bar for the gorillas to get ripped on. One of the baby gorillas can go on the adult's back, and one up in the tree nesting. The next enclosure will be for pandas, which are native to China, which will obviously have a lot of bamboo in it. I made a platform for the pandas to hang out on, or just tumble and fall off. They really aren't known for their coordination. To finish it off, I added a red panda, which is also native to China. Interestingly, they're not closely related to the panda bear and are closer in relation to raccoons and skunks. In this empty area, we'll build a home for a few monkeys. I started by building a large climbing tree, a slightly smaller one, and a platform. Then I placed ropes going from tree to tree, tree to platform, and tree to the ground. Now we can set the monkeys free to play in their new enclosure. In the second to last habitat, I'm going to use all of these foliage pieces to make a really dense grassland area with a fallen tree and logs for a black panther to sneak around in. I'll add the baby panther on top of the tree stump with its mother nearby, crouching in the dense grass. You definitely wouldn't want to run into these 2 in the wild. For the final enclosure, we're going to make it the home of a tiger, which is the largest cat on Earth. I built a small rock formation in the back with a creek streaming down into a pool of water. I'll place down some bamboo shoots and other greenery to complete the exhibit. Now the tiger can wade around in the water or hide away in the dense jungle. With that enclosure complete, we can place in the walls separating the animals and then add this cool net I designed to go over the top of the monkey enclosure. They're great escape artists, so we need something to keep them contained. Now, of course, the zoo wouldn't be complete without an area for guests to dine. And what better spot than right in front of the tiger enclosure? I'll place down 3 tables and stools, each right in front of a curved section of glass. Then I'll place down palm leaf umbrellas to provide shade for each table. I was heavily inspired by the outdoor eating area at the zoo, which looked out onto the African savanna. I built a counter with a variety of food options and a cash register. I placed down this custom living roof I made using a ton of vine pieces. Now the food court is complete and is the perfect spot to get an up-close view of the tiger while you enjoy your food. For the final open area, I want to add a gift shop for guests to get souvenirs to remember their time at the zoo. I designed the gift shop in the shape of a tiger head. Opening up the head reveals a counter inside and a small shelf full of stuffed animals, candy bars, and that crystal candy I always wanted as a kid. And most importantly, we have to add a bathroom for park guests. Inside is a small stall and sink. On top, I'll add a giant toilet to guide guests to the porcelain throne. Let's fill up the park with guests, zookeepers, and mascots. Guests are enjoying the petting zoo, touching sea creatures, enjoying refreshments, and soaking in the beauty of nature. But these exhibits aren't nearly exciting enough for them. So let's resurrect dinosaurs and build an even larger Lego zoo to house them. We'll start by creating the entrance to the zoo, which was inspired by the original gateway in Jurassic Park. First, I built 2 giant stone pillars and connected them with an arch. Then I made 2 wooden gates and attached them to the pillars. We need to add a sign on top, so I made one that says Dino Zoo. Next, I lit the torches around the gates. And now it's time to build some high security fencing around the entrance, then I enclosed the rest of the base plates so none of our dinosaurs can escape. But before heading through the gates, guests have to sign a waiver acknowledging that the zoo is not responsible for any accidental injuries or deaths that happen on park grounds. With the entrance complete, it's time to build inside the park. Directly behind the gate, I want to construct a huge T-Rex skeleton for guests to be greeted by as they first enter the zoo. We'll also add a bench and some flower beds to finish off the courtyard. Now we can start work on the herbivore paddock for our 7 different species of plant-eating dinosaurs. I started by closing off the area with bricks and building some electric fencing for added safety. I created a variety of different plants to fill our zoo with, and after laying down some tree ferns, pines, and other vegetation for our herbivores to snack on, I built a small rock formation and pond in the back of the exhibit. First to enter are a pair of stigmalogs. Next out is a Gallimimus, one of the fastest dinosaurs to ever exist. When startled, Gallimimuses can run twice as fast as a human.
Why are you running?
As one of the main attractions to this exhibit, I designed a treetop platform which will allow park guests to feed some of the largest land animals that ever lived. Up here, guests can come eye to eye with a 40-foot tall Brachiosaurus, or its even longer and heavier cousin, the Titanosaur. Just don't forget to let go of the branch when feeding these gentle giants, or you'll end up going for an unexpected ride. The last additions to our herbivore paddock are a Stegosaurus, a pair of Ankylosauruses, and a herd of Triceratops, 3 of which are on exhibit today. And the baby dinos make perfect playmates. All of these dinosaurs have some pretty cool adaptations to protect themselves, like the Stegosaurus's backplates and spiky tail, which are a great defense against Allosauruses, a predator we'll see later in the video. Now that all the herbivores are in, we can add our final attraction, a gyrosphere ride where guests can roll through the paddock and get a closer look at all 7 species. After building the launch center and opening the gate, guests are catapulted into the exhibit to explore on their own. Just make sure to give the dinosaurs plenty of space.
It's out of the park!
And with that, our first enclosure is complete. Now it's time to move on to some interactive exhibits at the center of the zoo. Around the base of the T-Rex skeleton, I'm going to build a fossil dig pit where kids can practice their excavation skills. I created a variety of fossil segments to place around and buried them in layers of rock and dirt. Now kids can dig, chisel, and brush away in search of prehistoric fossils. To finish this area off, I added a rack of extra tools and a simple sign to mark the entrance. Next to the fossil dig pit, I'm going to add a small building where guests can get a behind-the-scenes look into the dinosaur breeding lab. For the inside, I built some workstations with all the lab equipment needed to bring these extinct species back to life, like this baby Achelops. In the remaining space next to the T-Rex skeleton, I'm going to create a petting zoo where guests can play and bond with newly hatched babies. A gate on the side of the dinosaur breeding lab allows the hatchlings to enter directly into the petting zoo, which is currently home to 1 baby Triceratops and 2 baby Ankylosauruses. It's a great place for these guys to get used to guests before moving into the herbivore paddock across the path. Let's just hope the more dangerous baby dinosaurs don't get out of the lab. With this section done, it's time to ramp up the exhibits by adding in enclosures for the small carnivore species, starting with the velociraptors. To make their enclosure, I used a bunch of bracket pieces to create a hexagon-shaped pen with glass walls all around. I wanted to make the velociraptor exhibit similar to the one seen in the Jurassic World movie. I built a ladder leading up to a set of walkways above the enclosure held up by these pillars. Next, I attached some spotlights and stationed security guards to watch over the area. Only 4 of the zoo's adult raptors are out today, but the raptor pack has grown to include 11 adults and 13 hatchlings. In reality, actual velociraptors looked a lot more like a turkey. But the velociraptors in our zoo were genetically engineered to have a much more intimidating look. So make sure you subscribe, or you'll end up in the enclosure with the velociraptors. And Owen Grady won't be there to save you this time. Next, I want to add in some flying dinosaurs like a pteranodon in the background, but they don't exactly stick to the paper very well. Thankfully, Slab Dream Labs sent this big sky baseplate that works perfectly as a backdrop. Since it has actual studs, I can attach the flying dinosaurs right to it, and now it looks like they're soaring through the sky. Behind the Velociraptor pin, I'm going to add two side-by-side exhibits. The first side will be for a family of Dilophosaurus, a unique looking predator that has crests on its head and colorful frills on either side of its neck. After dividing the open space with a solid wall, I built up the glass to create space for the exhibit. Then I planted some grasses and ferns for the Dilophosaurus to camouflage in, and added a small waterfall in the corner. With the animals in the exhibit, it's looking great, and it's much safer than the original design. Turns out, open fencing wasn't a great idea for dinosaurs that were genetically engineered to spit venom. On the other side of the wall, I placed down a big viney tree and filled in the rest of the exhibit with smaller ferns and shrubs. I got the inspiration for these plants from my trip to Hawaii, which is where a lot of the Jurassic Park and Jurassic World movies were filmed. Now it's time to release the dinosaur pack, which includes a Pyroraptor, two Coelophysis siblings, and a breeding pair of Atrociraptors. And it looks like they're immediately on a hunt. With the entire middle section complete, the zoo is really starting to fill in nicely. But we still have 7 more exhibits to build. To create more space, I brought in a second table, raised it up, and covered it in 10 more base plates to create a separate maximum security level for the zoo's biggest and fiercest predators. I used these mountain pieces to cover the gap between levels, then added extra slope and vines to give it a more natural look. The first addition to this new area will be a brick-built Mosasaurus. Longer than a school bus, this giant ocean carnivore needs an enclosure that will show off its intimidating features and impressive hunting behavior. I'm taking inspiration from the Jurassic World movie and constructing a giant water stadium in the back corner of the zoo. I started by using glass panels to create a big wall for the tank. I filled it in with water, then built tiered stadium seats for guests to sit in during the Mosasaurus feeding. I connected the 3 sections together and placed them along the back of the exhibit. I also built a platform that extends over the tank and finished out the area by adding overhead lighting above the stands. And now I can finally release the Mosasaurus into its tank and let people in for the show of a lifetime. And for today's feeding, there's shark on the menu. This exhibit turned out looking really cool. Before finishing off the rest of this upper level, I want to fill in the lower part of the zoo with some unique and iconic large carnivore species. I'm going to start by enclosing the entire area with electric fencing and reinforced pillars. Then I divided the space into 3 separate exhibits using these solid brick walls. I wanted to recreate the dense jungle environments I saw in Hawaii, so I placed down some palm trees, ferns, and other plants to prep the space for one of our most popular dinosaurs, the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Our zoo is home to 6 different T-Rexes with unique colorings and markings. The male and female out on exhibit today are keeping careful watch over a nest of eggs, which should be hatching soon. There's just enough space in front of their enclosure to add in a crane that can move up and down so that guests can drop in a cow and watch them devour it with their bone-crushing jaws, which is some good family fun. I'm going to prep the next enclosure to house an unlikely pair of dinosaurs. First in is an Allosaurus, which looks similar to its neighbor, the T-Rex, except the Allosaurus has larger, more useful arms that it can actually use while hunting. The Allosaurus is joined by Therizinosaurus, which is technically an herbivore, but it has insane claws it can use to defend itself, or use them to pull down some branches while grazing on leaves, which might explain where the scars on this Allosaurus came from. The last exhibit in this row will be for 2 species of aquatic carnivores, so I'm going to form a waterfall in the back corner that flows into a stream and spreads across most of the exhibit. Once the enclosure has been flooded, I can add in a few palm trees and shrubs along the shoreline. The first dinosaur in is a Spinosaurus, and then a Baryonyx. The Spinosaurus was named for its impressive 6-foot-tall sail of spikes. Both dinosaurs have heads that look similar to a crocodile, which explains why they're such good hunters in the water. With that, the entire lower section of the zoo is complete and is looking really impressive. In the center of the zoo's upper level, I'm going to build another enclosure for 2 lesser known but dangerous predators. After surrounding the exhibit with secure walls and filling it with vegetation, I added in the Giganotosaurus and the Carnotaurus to their new home, which they completely tower over. Let's also add in this crushed jeep for the Giganotosaurus to stand on. Before we build the final few enclosures, we have to add a bathroom for park guests. Inside is a small stall and sink, and on top I'll add a giant toilet to guide guests to it. Right next to the bathroom, I'm also going to build a security tower. A set of stairs leads up to 2 different platforms. The top level stores the park's communication and monitoring equipment, where security guards are stationed with tranquilizer guns in case things get out of control. Anyone feeling adventurous can head to the launching platform next to the security tower to ride on one of the flying dinosaurs. Just make sure to steer clear of the Mosasaurus Stadium as you soar over the park. There's just enough space left to add in a meat stand on the corner where guests can get a piece of the T-Rex's leftovers. I'm going to dedicate the last open space in the park to the Indoraptor and Indominus Rex, the only 2 hybrid dinosaurs in the entire zoo. So we built our most secure enclosure yet with electric fencing lining the top. I added minimal foliage to make room for the 2 dinosaurs and our main ride at the zoo, which is this really detailed bright lime green T-Rex mech. After placing down the 2 dinosaurs, guests can hop into the mech and battle the Indominus Rex and Indoraptor with it. With the last exhibit for this zoo complete, it's time to add in some mascots to the park and fill it up with guests. Now they can enjoy the petting zoo, battle dangerous dinosaurs, and watch an amazing aquatic animal show, which this park didn't have nearly enough of, so let's work on building a massive Lego aquarium for our final build. I actually visited the Monterey Bay Aquarium to connect with the animals and get some inspiration for my own Lego aquarium. We'll start by fencing in the 25 base plates so the fish can't escape. In the front, I'll tile off an area for the entrance and build 2 tanks that guests will walk through as they enter. After filling each tank with sand and seaweed, I release some colorful fish, a few lobsters, a pair of jellyfish, and a starfish into the tanks to be the official guest greeters. Then I closed off the tops of the tanks and added a glass tunnel over the pathway to connect them. And of course, we need to build a sign to place above the entrance. I chose the name Brick Bay and added a bunch of coral and kelp pieces around the edges. I also designed some sandy ocean floor pillars and placed them on top of the tanks to hold up the sign. Now all that's left is to finish off the courtyard where a dolphin fountain makes a perfect centerpiece. I'll also add in some benches where guests can sit and enjoy the view. I'll place 2 minifigures on either side of the tunnel to scan tickets as guests enter. Now we can finally start working on the first enclosure for bottlenose dolphins. We can start by turning this grassy area next to the entrance into water. After outlining the shape of the exhibit with these gray tiles, I'll place down glass walls around the whole enclosure. I'm also going to add a platform across the middle of the tank for future dolphin training sessions. Now it's time to add in the dolphins. It looks like somebody's cell phone is a dolphin's new favorite toy. For the main attraction in this exhibit, I designed a mechanism that allows guests to participate in training sessions from outside the glass. Dolphins can be trained to do all kinds of flips and tricks that mimic their natural behaviors in the wild. Yeah, that one felt personal. And with that, our first enclosure is complete. Across from the dolphins, I'm going to build a touch pool, which is one of the few places in the aquarium where you can have direct contact with the animals. And with the help of my friend MKMBrick, we'll create a low wall for easy access. Then I'll fill in the touch pool with blue studs before releasing the animals into the water. This pool will contain 4 massive stingrays, a shark, and a few starfish. What could go wrong? To the left of the entrance, I'm going to build an exhibit that mirrors the dolphin enclosure. We can release a gray reef shark into the tank as well as a sawfish, which looks like a shark but is actually a type of ray. Oh, and make sure to subscribe or you'll end up swimming in here with the sharks. The next exhibit will be for alligators, the aquarium's first semi-aquatic animal. We'll start by sectioning off the area with a glass wall, then creating a river that runs the full length of the enclosure. We'll add in a variety of plants along the riverbanks to give it a swampy feel. Now we can add in the adult alligators throughout the enclosure while the baby gators take cover under the brush. The front of the aquarium is filling up fast, so let's build a series of exhibits along the sides. Starting with the seal exhibit. I used standard glass walls on 2 sides of the enclosure, then built a special viewing area with huge arched windows and a set of steps leading up the side to an elevated feeding platform. The exhibit will be home to 2 adult seals and 3 rescued pups. I used blue and tan plates, then layered these clear blue tiles over the top to give the illusion of deep ocean water and shallower water near the shore. I wanted this exhibit to connect to an open ocean pen similar to what we saw at the Monterey Bay Aquarium. Now all that's left is to create a rocky shore and island for seals to rest on. Once the seals have been introduced, guests can head over to the special viewing area and get eye to eye with these playful marine animals. This area also gives them front row seats during feeding time as trainers toss tasty fish down to the waiting seals. The next area will house sea turtles, penguins, and flamingos. I got to swim with some wild sea turtles in Hawaii last year, which was an amazing experience. So of course, I had to add them to my own Lego aquarium. I'll use these tan plates to create a sandy ocean floor and these blue glass pieces to give guests an underwater view of the turtles. Next, I'll deck the tank out with coral and plenty of seagrass for the sea turtles to munch on. Now we can let our 4 turtles start cruising around their habitat. The open space next door will be a perfect spot for a penguin enclosure. These penguins live in the freezing waters of Antarctica. So let's use a combination of white bricks and clear glass to give this enclosure an icy ambiance. After filling the tank with bright blue water, I designed a floating ice sheet for the center of the penguin's habitat. If guests are lucky, they might even catch the penguins sliding around on their bellies to move across the ice. Waddling through the snow isn't nearly as effective. The third and final exhibit in this row will be for another water-loving bird, flamingos. After building up the pink-capped walls, I'll form a pond at the very center. Next, I'll place down some bushes and a small palm tree to fill out the land around the water. These flamingos seem pretty content in their new habitat, and it looks like they've even started to build a mud nest to lay their eggs in. Now let's head back to the opposite side of the aquarium to build a polar bear exhibit for an adult female and her cub. I'll cover one half of the enclosure in a giant ice sheet and fill in another half with water. Polar bears are technically land predators since they hunt seals on ice, but they're known for being excellent swimmers. I'm also going to add in a dugout in the back corner since females typically give birth to their cubs in snowy dens. Now let's add in some enrichment toys to keep the polar bears and guests entertained. But this mom can't teach her cub to hunt on tires, so good thing there's some live prey available just next door. With 9 outdoor enclosures complete, it's time to turn our attention to this giant open space at the center. I want to create a series of indoor tanks for some of the smaller fish and crustacean species. So I took some inspiration from my visit to the Monterey Bay Aquarium, which was built inside of an old fish cannery building. Since this building will be directly in front of the main entrance tunnel, I'm going to create a pair of matching L-shaped tanks to help funnel guests into the building. I'll fill it up with a bunch of coral and seagrass, as well as a handful of sea life. The plan is to build the tanks into the front walls of the building so that they're visible from both inside and outside. Let's use these red bricks to start outlining the boundaries of the building. I'll use these brown tiles for the floor, leaving space for each of the 11 tanks that I plan to build. With the glass prepped, it's time to start adding in our first species to the tanks on the left side of the building. The first tank will be home to 3 fish with some pretty cool colors and patterns. Their white bodies are covered in black stripes and yellow highlights. The next tank over will house an entire herd of seahorses. They use their tails to cling tightly to the coral and seagrass around them. They also have excellent camouflage, which helps these little guys hide from predators. Let me know if you're able to find all 6 seahorses hiding in the tank. I filled another tank with curious hermit crabs who spend most of their time eating and looking for upgraded shells in the sand. And I filled the final tank with a school of these weird spinny fish that just swim in circles all day. I got the inspiration for this exhibit directly from the aquarium. They had a school of these sardines that just swam around and around in a tank in the ceiling, where each fish was basically just following its neighbor in a never-ending circle. And with that, the left side of the building is complete. Now I'm going to fill in the tanks on the right side of the building, starting with the pair of axolotls. The tank looks pretty different from all the other habitats I've designed because they're the only freshwater species in the building. In the next tank over, I created a habitat for the ocean's most recognizable fish species, the clownfish. And of course, this tank wouldn't be complete without an anemone to hide in. The third tank will be home to these yellow fish with blue stripes. They look a lot like a species called the regal angelfish, but LEGO calls them flounders. Yeah, those are definitely not the same species, but their chubby little faces actually remind me more of a pufferfish. In the final tank, I added a bunch of starfish and gave them free rein to climb all over the glass walls. 8 out of the 11 tanks in this building are done. Let's use these last 3 tanks in the middle of the building for some of the ocean's more mysterious species. First up is the anglerfish. These guys look like they're straight out of a horror movie with their crazy teeth and light up lure on the front of their heads. Up next is the jellyfish tank, which is one of my favorite exhibits to look at in real life. There's something relaxing about watching them move slowly around their tank. I reserved the final tank for one of the most impressive sea creatures yet, a giant octopus. I built a rocky cave in the back of the tank for the octopus to camouflage in. Turns out octopus are serious escape artists, so we better close in this building. I went with a 2-story design mixing tan and gray bricks with some red accents for the walls. I wanted the building to feel open and bright inside, so I integrated a series of skylights into the roof. Off the back of the building, I'm going to create 2 animal enclosures on either side of the exit tunnel. The first will be an exhibit for sea otters, by far the cutest animals in the entire aquarium. After enclosing the area in glass, I filled the exhibit halfway full with water to give guests a split view of the otters floating on the surface and diving underwater. I added transparent blue tiles to finish off the water surface, then added in 5 playful sea otters. To finish off the exhibit, I built a rock structure to give these otters a place to crack clamshells open. The enclosure on the opposite side of the tunnel will be home to the sea otters' freshwater cousins, the river otters, and a couple of beavers. I'll start by building a river across the full length of the exhibit, then adding in some plants along the banks. Now it's time to place in the animals. While the river otters frolic and play, the beavers can work on chewing down some logs and using leftover sticks to build the dam. We'll use the remaining space along the fence line for the largest and most dangerous ocean predators, including great white sharks, some deep ocean sharks and rays, and orcas. I'll build the 2 shark tanks first using double-stacked glass panels to make the tanks 2 stories tall. In the center tank, I'll place down a hammerhead shark, tiger shark, manta ray, and a rare albino shark at different depths. This mixed species tank was directly inspired by the open ocean exhibit at the Monterey Bay Aquarium, which had all kinds of sharks, rays, and fish coexisting together. In the corner tank, I'll add in 2 ginormous great white sharks. As one of the ocean's top predators, they definitely deserve their own space since they'll eat just about anything that fits in their mouth. Next, I topped off the pathway between tanks with a glass tunnel to give guests the illusion of being underwater with these deep ocean predators. Once the back walls are added in, I finish off the great white tank with a rock formation to fill in the empty space in their enclosure. Now let's use the last remaining space to build one final exhibit for a pair of orcas. I'm going to place down a set of elevated seating areas on both ends of the enclosure. I'll also add in a platform for the trainers to stand on. These orcas have all kinds of impressive tricks to show off, from acrobatic flips to powerful tail slaps. With all the enclosures complete, let's add in a gift shop. Like the aquarium I visited in real life, I stocked up the shop with a variety of stuffed animals and treats, then placed down a cashier ready to help the guests with their purchases. And of course, we need to add in a bathroom. It even comes with a nice view of the otter exhibit while you take care of business. There's still 2 unused grassy areas near the front entrance, so I'll build a small seating area in front of the coral reef tank where guests can eat lunch with the fish. But if guests didn't bring their own meal, they can order from the food court next door, just like I did in Monterey. There's a variety of food options on the menu, but there's also a secret seafood special where guests can catch their own fish and have it prepared on site. All that's left is to fill up the park with guests so they can start enjoying the touch pool, watching animal training sessions, and getting up close views of Earth's water-loving creatures. And with that, Brick Bay is officially complete.
I wish I could visit these parks in real life. All 3 of them turned out looking really epic, and we were able to fit in so many different enclosures. Let me know which park was your favorite down below in the comments, and what type of zoo I should build next. Thanks so much for watching, and stay awesome.